Yo, what's up? This is Splendid Radio on Farside TV with a very special guest by the name of Miss Marla Spirit.
Hello, hello.
Hey, what's up with you?
Doing great. How are you doing, Greg? How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. Funny little story. Um, the Far Side was performing in New Orleans many moons ago, over 20 years ago,
Mhm.
at the House of Blues.
Right.
And I remember because I'm greedy and I'm a foodie too. So
Right.
I remember there being some very good redfish,
Okay.
and that was that was the meal part. And we were actually on tour at the time, and
Right.
when we came in, I don't think that we saw you guys at sound check, but when we came in, I heard you guys performing, or somehow I was like moving about, uh,
Okay.
and I heard your voice, and so the things that like my senses that I can just remember what my senses were picking up on. So I remember hearing your beautiful voice. Rest in peace, you guys, guitar player. I remember hearing his guitar coming out all over the place
Right.
wonderfully.
Right.
And if I had to compare what you guys sounded like, the group Soul Remedy, it's crazy because it was like a mixture of neo soul rock music. It was like, honestly, thinking about it now, like in contemporary times, it reminded me what D'Angelo's first album sounded like
Mm.
with a female soul singer
Wow.
going on.
Wow.
And it was a lot for me. Like I had to process it. And it was interesting because you know I want to say I kept in touch with bass. So
Yes.
so so which I tried to get bass in here, and he was
Right.
he was
Right.
down, but he said we're gonna let Marla shine right now. We're gonna loop it back around. So that's all good. Which, man, shout out to Bass Heavy, an
Shout out to Bates.
incredible producer, man, and incredible producer. So um I heard all this stuff going on, and I
Mhm.
think what really threw me off is that this was coming from New Orleans.
Mm.
So it was like, and I'm not saying that people in New Orleans aren't cultured with
Right.
what's going on in the world, but go to show you, see, I didn't understand. Now, my people are from Mississippi. So
Okay.
Brookhaven, which is probably about an hour and a half from New Orleans.
Okay.
And so at the time when I looked at New Orleans, I only thought Mardi Gras, and kind of like a ragtime jazz type of music,
Okay.
not really thinking soul or anything like that.
Right.
And so it was and so kind of a little bit about me, traveling as much as I did across the country with the Far Side and whatnot. I was exposed to a lot of bands, a lot of music where, like, if I could count how many bands had the same recipe as the Roots
Right.
and sounded somewhat like the Roots,
Hmm.
like somewhat like the Roots, but that was a thing that was going on. If anybody would have told me that I would hear and see what I saw going on in New Orleans that night, I would have thought they were crazy. Like how are we going to get this? But speaking to bass, after we connected, exchanged numbers and whatnot, and him telling me about his legacy with Master P and all those guys, and him doing drum programming, playing the bass, and just all the things that he does.
Right.
Um, it was very interesting that you guys had your own identity and you really didn't sound like anybody. I just compared to D'Angelo, but at the time I wouldn't have compared it to D'Angelo. This is 20 years later, and then me just kind of like thinking back and saying,
Right.
they had this rock, R&B, neo soul thing going on that wasn't really called neo soul so
Exactly.
much
Right.
at the time, and I was blown back. But
Right.
I'm very glad that the world gets a chance to hear this EP that you guys have just released, because I've heard that EP so many times.
Right. Right. You're one of the 300 who heard it when we made it and wrote it, years ago. So it is great that finally we are or have released it, But it's interesting you were talking about you had never heard anything like this before because we didn't plan it. What we did was so organic, and that was a word we used a lot then. We didn't say we were going to be a rock band, we're going to be a reggae band, we're going to be a soul band. It's just when we came together, all of our energies and what we had inside of us, it showed up that way, you know? And it was exciting times and it was special. And our practices were magical. We were blown away the music that was coming out of us. Like we knew we had something special. We knew we had something special. And it's so funny. There's this one practice in particular when we were by Terrence's house, our first drummer, and we would just vibe. We would just vibe out and just freestyle. And then I just started freestyling, singing. And this song came about, Earth Song. And that night, after we just grooved for a very long time, and then we decided to stop. After we started singing, we came up with this whole concept. We were like, oh my gosh, we need to start recording every practice. We need to do, somebody needs to be in charge of this. We need to, because I'm like, this is magic. It's not going to come out like this again. So we would then try to recreate the natural magic that happened. And it would still happen, but not like it did so spontaneously and so religiously, through us. So yeah, it was wonderful, wonderful times. And I'm excited to share this EP with everyone.
Nice. So all you guys are you are were to your guitar player, rest in peace. Um Unique in your own right for sure. Like definitely for sure. What city are you from?
I am from New Orleans, born and raised New Orleans, Ninth Ward. You got to say your ward when you're from New Orleans. Ninth Ward, my dad's people across the river, Avondale. So yeah, from New Orleans.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So I always like to start at hip hop and then speed up to kind of like what's going on now and whatnot. But when was the first time you heard hip hop, and like what was your connection with it?
The first time, that's a wonderful question. The first time I heard hip hop and what was my connection? Um, being from New Orleans, always loving brass band, that type of music. But in elementary school, I went to St. Mary's of the Angels, a Catholic. I've been to Catholic schools my whole life. So it was a Catholic school in the Ninth Ward, where music was celebrated, performing was celebrated, being creative was celebrated. And my friends, we had like a group of friends, we would hear songs, we would make our dances up. Like everybody did that. You make your dances up off songs. You put your nickname on your shirt, you dressed alike, you did all of that. But I want to say, I would say one of the first songs that really stood out to me was probably LL Cool J, I Need Love. It was many before that. But the thing about that song was probably the first song that I wrote the lyrics down. Like I'm writing the lyrics when I'm alone in my room. Sometimes I stare at the wall, and you thinking about that dude you're gonna say it to, or somebody gonna say it to you. So that that song really resonates. with me and probably a lot of other people too. So
You
LL Cool J.
Nah, that's dope. That's dope because
Yeah.
when I was in junior high school and listening to hip hop and whatnot, it was so new and so infectious
Right.
at the time that it like no one could have thought it would be the thing that it is today.
Wow.
But we all knew something special was going on. Like
Right.
like like we knew. Interesting enough, I think back to MTV
Yes.
and Run DMC really being one of the first, which they came before LL. And
Yes.
see, nowadays, people have sensory overload with social media. And so you get to know too much about an artist, and it takes away, it takes away where, you know, back in, let's say, and I'm going to date myself,
Yeah, let's
80,
finish. Mm-hmm.
82, 83, 84,
But
85,
that's music. Mm-hmm.
you had magazines and you had MTV. And then
Yeah.
you had what was on the radio, which there was very limited rap music on the radio at the time. And it's almost like out here in LA, we had K Day, but it was almost like rap music was the music that you had to hear like mid evening to late night until it became very popular. And then
Mm.
you get like that one song or that
Right.
those two songs that would kind of sneak in.
Right.
Um, when did you realize you had a passion to sing?
When did I realize I had a passion to sing? And if I can just go back to the Run DMC, that was the first
Sure.
concert I went to with my girls. We went to It was Run DMC. It was Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, Public Enemy, and Houdini, I think.
We
And we
all
had on,
we all went to that concert. It went to sports arenas across
yes,
the country.
yes. We were in seventh grade or eighth grade. I think we convinced our parents to let us catch the bus or something like that. We had on our matching shirts with our nicknames on the back. I think my nickname was Lil Red at that time, or Shorty, or something like that. Whatever. So yeah, so Run DMC too, that was awesome. Loved it all. And I used to have to go by my friend's house to hear the Two Live Crew and the Too Short, the stuff that I could not listen to. And I remember just being blown away listening to those lyrics, like, oh my gosh. But it was dope. It was cool, it was cool. So when did I fall in love with music and knew I wanted to sing?
Yes.
Is that the question?
Yes.
Well, my mother, may she rest in peace, continue to rest in peace. My mom was a fantastic singer,
Okay.
and my sister, and my dad always encouraged us to play instruments. Um, we took piano lessons when we were kids, but we preferred to go outside and dance. We really didn't want to sit behind a piano. So I just had it in me. I watched my mom in the kitchen. Literally, she would just beat on the table and just write a song and just start freestyling. So I came from all of that. I came
Okay.
from music. My sister, my brother was a rapper. I came from all of that. But my elementary school I went to, St. Mary's of the Angels, we would have talent shows. I was in speech tournaments, reciting poetry and humorous and dramatic interpretations. So I always performed, but I always participated in talent shows. And it just felt great. But this one talent show in particular, when it was just me left at the elementary school. My sister had graduated, they were in high school. My uncles, all of them were in high school now. And I did Jody Watley. And it was just lip syncing, but I did Jody Watley, and my mom got me the outfit. I'm practicing, and I performed it, and it felt so great. But I saw people's faces, and it was just like, wow. And I just knew like that was it. That was it. That's it. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
All right. I got
Mhm.
it. We're gonna
Mhm.
spin the record back real quick. Your
Okay.
favorite hip hop movie.
My favorite hip hop movie of all time is Beat Street. Of course. The dance battles are the best. I will still watch them. Beat Street, hands down. Beat Street.
Yeah, I would have to say, you know, we've
Yours
had
too?
young,
Yeah.
yeah, we've had younger people on. I've
Mhm.
heard everything from Drumline to, to
Which is good.
Bounce Rock Skate.
Never
Uh,
heard that one.
uh, what else? Yeah, I've heard some very interesting things, but uh, Beach
That's
Street
Beat
was
Street.
like my start, and then Crush Groove
Yeah,
after that.
yeah,
But Beach Street was a lot more innocent than Crush Groove.
yeah.
You know, it was it was more innocent because the actors were not necessarily famous. The
Right,
young the street at the dancers and the you know the graffiti guys and all
right,
that, they
right.
weren't famous. But when you watch Crush Groove, you're looking at Sheila E. She's made
Yeah,
money, been around some things. You're
yes,
looking at Run DMC. They
right,
had a little bit of money, been around some things. You're looking at LL Cool J.
right,
He was already a personality, you know, he'd been around some. So you had all, and then you had Blair Underwood.
right.
So it was like a different thing
Hmm.
where Beach Street was just kind of like, okay, you have older brother, younger brother.
Right,
Older brother DJ, younger
right,
brother break dancer, pop
right,
locker, you
right,
know, want to be in the footsteps of the big brother. You have Ray Don Chong, you know,
right.
you have
Ramos, right? The graffiti.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ramo.
Ramos.
Love story,
Hmm.
innocent type of love story kind of going on. And then you have I guess the you would call it um you have the capitalist
Hmm. True.
part
Hmm.
coming into the hip hop,
Yes,
and even back then figuring out a way to take it and put it in a jar and package it and capitalize.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and capitalize off of it. So yeah, so Beat Street was definitely was mine too.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
nowadays, what medium do you use to find new music?
What medium do I use to find new music? Um, I still listen to a lot of old, well, I won't call it old. I still listen to timeless music, right? Just whatever moves me. So I do the YouTube. I look at the
Okay.
mix, and when it gives me options, sometimes I might listen to those options of what artists sound similar to somebody that I know is going to be on my mix, like a Nana Cherry or something. Um, so that way I listen to it like that. Or if I have a friend tell me to check out an artist, then, I'll listen to it. But the thing is, it doesn't stick with me. I've noticed a lot of the new music, nothing against it, just artists that my friend has shared with me. It I listen to it for a day and I don't have to listen to it again. It's just like
You
air,
know,
just it's just like that. I don't know.
no, I'll
You
say
understand?
this.
Hmm.
Not to sound old and
Hmm.
jaded and all that kind of stuff, but the music from the past,
Hmm.
as well as music from some artists now, um, you can. I'm going to cite one of my motivational speakers,
Okay.
favorite motivational speakers, Inky Johnson, and
Can you repeat that? Inky who?
Inky Johnson.
Inky Johnson. Okay.
Mhm. And so he says you can counterfeit everything, but you can't counterfeit passion.
Mm.
And so a lot of the music that was very popular, let's say kind of like back in the day, the intention
Mhm.
was an artist that had some talent. They were placed together with producers that may have
Mm.
had talent or not had talent.
Yeah.
Um, you recorded more or less in a studio than on your computer or at home. And
Mm.
so, and it's like I think back to when before I started working with the Far Side, when they were my friends, and I think back to the making of their first album and how
Mhm.
like I didn't understand what was going on while it was happening
Right.
because like I was a friend, I wasn't a fan. So
Mhm.
I was just at a studio after I would get off work or or on an off day, and they were focused on taking this opportunity they had and making this thing, and they worked on it for months. You know what I'm saying? And they had producers working on it for months, and then they were
Right.
involved in the production for months,
Right.
and they had a record label that had put up the money in order to make this thing, and so you
Mhm.
had somebody who wasn't necessarily creative, but they had a vested interest in it. And they would remind the group, like, okay, I'll put this money up, you got this studio time. Come on, man. I know you got the bangers. I want
Right.
to hear that thing that, I heard that made me sign, like that kind of thing.
Right.
So when you have all those ingredients, the music that's going to be made is going to be music where you can kind of feel the passion and the
Right.
energy and the effort and everything that was placed into it.
Intention behind it.
And then at that time, people recorded together. So like people were actually in the studio every day for months, like together and creating this thing where now you might get a beat off the internet from somewhere.
Right.
You might have an artist that got the beat from the internet somewhere.
Right.
He might record it in his bedroom or
Right.
wherever. Um,
Right.
they're not going to really pay attention to the mix so much, like
Hmm.
how
Right.
back in that older album making process, people listen. Like I can remember, like the guys listening to a song over and over and over and over and over and over again for like weeks, literally for weeks, and
Mhm.
listening to mixes in different cars and like all this kind of thing. Where today people really aren't worried about none of that. You know what I'm saying?
You're not.
They're not worried about none of that. What
Right.
they want is something that they feel may go viral,
Right.
and
Right. Right. No
it's
substance.
the focus is more on popularity and accolades than the actual art or the craft of it. And not to say that there aren't artists out there like that, because there are artists that
Yes.
it's very interesting. Um, Van Hunt. I was a
Yes.
I was a very large Van Hunt fan,
Okay.
very large. And the music that he made was like, to me, it was kind of like Prince. It was Curtis Mayfield. It was like
Mhm.
Prince
Yes.
rolled up with Curtis Mayfield, rolled up with a bunch of other
Right.
soul and funk and like all these things. And when he performed, you could really feel that thing,
Mhm.
that like that thing going on.
Right.
Um,
That energy.
Now
Hmm.
you have bands, but they're far few and in between.
Right.
You have,
Right.
matter of fact, I have my goddaughter's father. He's been several large artists, some of the
Mhm.
largest artists in the world. They're business managers, and I
Okay.
remember I had brought someone to him that um, it was an artist that had the it factor,
Okay.
but
Okay.
they just didn't know anything about art, like or really singing that much. They just kind of had a
Hmm.
passion, and
Okay.
so I felt like, man, do I overstep my executive whatever and bring this younger guy into him, or
Hmm.
don't I? And something said, you know what, before you introduce him,
Hmm.
play him the music and just see if he can hear what's going on with the music. And so I played him the music,
Okay.
and asked me, he said, you know, I can see there's some apprehension in you. He's like, you know, what's going on with the apprehension? And I was like, this artist has the it factor, but there's so many things they don't have.
Right.
And to my surprise, he said, man, don't worry about that. He
Mm-hmm.
said, man, if they got that it thing, they got choreographers, they have speech coaches, they have, vocal coaches, and he just starts saying all these things.
Some of them do need speech coaches, so look.
that's a that's a fact.
Yep.
And I would say media training is almost intermittent into the whole process in the climate that we are today. But he really kind of rocked my world, my goddaughter's father, because I was like, man, he's verbalizing something
Mm-hmm.
that we've all seen it, but we didn't know we were seeing it. And I'll give you a reference. So one of the greatest producers in the world, Quincy Jones, he knew that he had to produce a Michael Jackson album,
Mm-hmm.
and he had done his best at what he could do, and he got Rod Temperton, you know, white dude from across the water,
Right.
more soulful than many brothers
Right.
then and today. You know, Rod Temperton, Heat Wave, you know, like all these, you know, huge soul groups,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
all this. And he got Michael Jackson and
Mm-hmm.
created like the magic. I'll tell you this. I often felt that when Pharrell, not his earlier production,
Mm-hmm.
but as when he kind of evolved
Right.
beyond the Neptunes,
Right.
I really, when I hear the song Human Nature by Michael Jackson,
Yes.
I really hear a lot of where Pharrell
Mm.
was at a point in time in his life where he studied that
True.
thing, like that
Mm.
combination of
Mm-hmm.
music that makes you feel special. Like, and to your point, a lot of the music that we hear now doesn't really make you feel special. It's music that'll make you celebrate. It's music
Mm-hmm.
that'll make you want to drop it like it's
Right.
hot, or
Right.
smoke something, drink something.
Right. Right. It's quick satisfaction, get you high real quick and not
And I
there for
say,
you when you come down.
and I say that to say, you know, when I heard Soul Remedy, dude, it like, man, it had took me over, man. It was it you know, I haven't had that feeling many times
Right.
in person when it came to me hearing an artist. And then you have to understand, first of all, uh I'm in New Orleans.
Right.
I'm thinking I'm in this country as hell place. They got this they got a house of blues though. They got a house of blues, so that's, you know, that's a little something.
Right.
And then hearing the guitar sounds and
Mm-hmm.
bass on the bass, and
Right.
you know, all these things going on with your group, I was just kind of like, man, the world needs to hear this.
Yes.
I promise you, I felt from that moment. And it's crazy. Like, me hearing you guys perform
Mm-hmm.
that night when I walked into the House of Blues
Mm-hmm.
and doing what I was there to do,
Right.
that created a friendship that, like, man, me and Bass ain't stopped going.
Right.
we
Right.
ain't we ain't
Right.
stopped. He's,
Right.
you know, he's done mixing and mastering for
Yeah.
Brown.
Yep.
He had produced a couple songs for this project that you know, Brown was working on once upon a
Mm-hmm.
time, and we needed a
Right.
engineer to come in and to mix the album, and
Right.
Bass steered us into that
Yep.
direction,
Mm-hmm.
and just
Ace
so
is the
much.
man. Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna move on from Jock and Soul Remedy so much because I am a
Jock, and I haven't
huge
heard that word in a while.
I am a
Okay.
huge fan, and I'm gonna get everybody caught up though. I'm gonna get them caught up, so hopefully they will feel something similar to what I felt when I first heard you guys. But what was the name of your first music group?
Soul Remedy. But it's so funny because first we would call Remedy. We
Okay.
would call well, and bass wasn't always in the band. You know, bass wasn't this band. This is how the band started. Okay.
Okay.
I had this dream. I had this dream that I always wanted to be a part of a band, right? So I started writing songs. I'm just writing. I would go to concerts, poetry sets, but I wouldn't get up there. I'm just like, I'll know when it's my time to get up for open mic. I will know when it's my time. So I knew when it was my time, and I would go up to open mic and I would sing my songs a cappella, right? Well, I had a friend at a time, and she and I put on an open mic session at this bookstore, and we invited all of these people to come. I get up there and I do one of my songs, and at the very end, I said, you know, I'm looking for a band. I'm looking for some musicians who wants to, you know, form a band, and we love each other. We become one. I did not want to be this solo artist. I did not want to be, you know, me have a band behind me. I wanted to be a part of a group because I loved groups. I loved Brand New Heavies. I loved Beastie Boys. I loved the Roots. I loved the Far Side. And it's so funny about the Far Side because my best friend and I, we would listen to Lab Cabin, California, right? We nonstop.
Hmm.
And I still put it on and I laugh. I laugh at where I was during that time. And it's a great feeling. Some of those songs, how it made me feel, it's just a great thing. So I've always just wanted to be a part of a band. So after the set, this guy comes up to me. He was a bass player. He was like, yo, I want to start a band with you. Let's do it. And I'm like, sure. And so we would practice. And he said, yo, I know a guitar player. He works at this record store. So I went to this record store and I see this guitar player, and it was Ayara, these locks. And I was like, I've seen him before. And he saw me before. So it's the three of us, right? So then the first bass player said, hey, I know a drummer. And I'm like, all right, let's meet this drummer. So then that was T Rose. So it was the four of us. We would make these songs, but the songs that I had written, they didn't fit. Like I tried to see if those songs would fit and it didn't. I'm like, I think we're supposed to create our own thing, something new. So we'd have these practices. It would be so much fun. But to make a long story short, that bass player just started doing other stuff that just wasn't mixing well with the three of us. So we knew he had to go.
He
He
got
had to
voted
go.
off the island.
He had to go. So we went, but we had become a little name, right? The three of us, we were somewhere, we were kind of happening. We went to this other poetry set. When we get to this poetry set, they're like, yo, Remedy is here because we're Remedy. We got the name Remedy from Ayara. We were having a conversation, and he goes, you know, our music is like the remedy that everybody needs. And it was like, that's it. That's it. So it was such a trip, right? So then we go to this poetry set, and people are like, Remedy is here. We'll get up there and do something. And there was this bass player there. And I forget the name of this particular poetry set because it was something big. Because New Orleans, as you said earlier, a country town, all of that. But New Orleans was special. We all knew it. Like New Orleans had some type of magic in the soil.
Still does.
It does because there were so many talented people there. So many talented singers, dancers, musicians, poets. It was just a beautiful place to grow up and just to start expanding on what we were doing. So there was a movement happening and in New Orleans. So anyway, we're at this poetry set and there's this bass player and he's like, yo, I want to play with y'all. Can I play with y'all? And this bass player was bass heavy, right? Roderick Tillman, the college student at UNO. So it was like, okay. And I remember bass reminded me of this. We had a gig, we had a big gig coming up or something. And I called UNO dorms and I was like, my name is Marla. I am looking for Roderick Tillman. We need a bass player. I went there, met with bass. He became our bass player. But he just became, when bass entered the group,
Come on.
it took, he took us to another level. That energy and what we were doing and his wonderful play, we went to another level with bass. And then it just continued to grow. We would go in his dorm room. We were writing songs in his dorm room. We were by my house and here and there, all of these places. But bass definitely took us to the next level. So then we became Soul Remedy because when we started looking into trademarking our name or just everything like that, there was a remedy already.
Mhm.
So I don't know who said soul, but then when somebody says soul, because everything happened in a conversation, right? Like soul came in and it was like, that's it. We're Soul Remedy. We like, there was no internet then, I don't think, or something, but we checked and there was no Soul Remedy. So we were good. We were Soul Remedy, started gigging everywhere. And once again, in a conversation, Ayura said to me, he was like, you need a name. You need you need a name. You got to call yourself something. You know, he would call me Sister Love and he would call me Spirit. He said,
Okay.
when you get up there and perform, it's like you're something else. It's your spirit. And I was like, that's it. Like IURI gave me the name Spirit. And I tell you, everything that I dreamt about came true. Everything. We loved each other and we grew together and we were a family. They were my brothers. I was their sister. And it was just, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I don't know if I answered your question. I don't
Oh,
even know
you
what the
did.
question was.
But I definitely have to pay a little bit of attention to what one of your other secret weapons
Okay.
um was, which is bass's drum program.
His drum programming.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
something. And I'm telling you, I
Yeah.
listened to that EP
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
times. Like, and I
Yes.
was and it was like I said, it was like a rock neo soul
Yep.
that had some, like, the way in it, and it's
Yeah.
the cheat code was based, in which I found out later. I believe he was studying music and engineering and all that and all
He
that kind of
was.
stuff,
He was. He was
and
in
all that
school.
kind of stuff. And so me looking at him, doing the production with Master P and all those guys back,
Right.
he knew how to program drums, but the way he did it, it like had a live swing to it.
Right.
It was something that was just really ahead of his time. Like
It
for
was. It was. And that came about. Well, we were in between drummers because our drummer Terrence then pursued his acting career and he had to make that choice. And
I've
he's doing
interviewed him.
big, big things
Yeah.
right now, Terrence. And him doing that, he brought really great opportunities to us. So we were in between drummers, and then bass really got into the programming drums and really started creating the sound and tracks, but doing it with the live instrumentation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's how the whole Circles album came about because we didn't have a drummer at that time. So he would make these tracks, he would call us over, or we would go over because I know for me, I had no interest in going out doing nothing. I wasn't trying to go to no more poetry sets, none of that stuff. I'm ready to work. Like I was, when I'm serious and I'm in it, I'm in it. I'm about that work. I'm about making dreams come true. And just that's my happy place, creating music with my people. So I will go over to the studio where bass was, because now the studio has been built, has been created. And he and I would play around, you know. He would have songs or I would have ideas. And I know for me, that Circles album was a growing process. Like I knew I had it in me. It was like, okay, Marla, you can't be shy about this now. You have to show this side. So I'm like, hey, bass, let me sing something. Let me try something. I want to do it like this. I want to scream. I want to I want to be sultry. I want to breathe deeply on some songs and I'm gonna that's a part of me too. That is me. So it was very experimental. And then there were times that bass was like, sing it this way, try this harmony. And then we would call Ayara over. Ayara, play it like this, because we had become live performers. Because
Mhm.
our first album was like, we recorded it live, you know, just everything live. And bass had a new weight. We need to start recording like it's an album and not like we're playing live.
Mhm.
So don't sing that. Don't say that. Don't play this. Let's do this part first. Let's do this. Oh, yeah, that is great. So it became bass producing this. And like yourself, and to this day, I meet so many people that what bass did, his production is a blueprint, was the blueprint for them. And they're producing. I met one person here in Texas because I live in Carrollton, Texas now, after Hurricane Katrina. And there was this one guy I worked with, this producer, and he was obsessed with bass in that Circles album. He was like, I studied it, I know it, I learned it. Can I work with you? And I'm like, sure. But it was like, he was like, I used to be in your audience all the way in the back, just watching. But when that Circles album came out, that's all I listened to, all I listened to, all I listened to. And so yeah, bass was on some other stuff. And I'm so happy that he allowed himself to grow. But of course, I mean,
Mhm.
he was evolving. We're all evolving. He's incredible. He's wonderful.
So I'm gonna ask you a question. You may be able
Yes.
to answer it. You might not be able.
Mhm.
Um, what were some of IRA's influences?
Jimi Hendrix, Bad Brains. Ira was, and Ira, a lot of our songs were written with Ira playing a
Oh,
lick, you know? Circles, I'll never forget. I forgot what room we were in. He just started playing, just strumming. And it's like, I can do all good, just blah, blah. And then bass would just start playing. I mean, we really just started vibing. So a lot of songs were created with Ira playing that guitar. But yeah, Bad Brains, Bob Marley,
makes
Jimi Hendrix, Prince. He was such a rock and roll dude, and he was so special. We knew he was special. Um,
you know
Nobody was doing.
it's interesting because
Mhm,
when you say that in the Circles EP,
mhm.
I hear the Jimi Hendrix
Yeah,
that was playing with the Isley brothers. I
yeah.
hear that version.
Mhm.
I hear that version of Jimi Hendrix
Right.
in some of those songs, but it doesn't sound necessary. Like I didn't think about it until you just said it. And
Yeah.
when you said Jimmy, I'm like, okay, uh, Purple Haze Jimmy, which Jimmy? And then I'm like, oh, this was the Jimmy that got Ron Isley's brother feeling like he was going to be the great guitar player.
Right.
Which he's a great
Mhm.
guitar player, but he wasn't Jimi Hendrix. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Right.
yeah, no, that's very interesting.
Yes. Yep. And
I'm
he
a,
taught himself.
oh
Ira
wow.
taught himself how to play the guitar, how to play the bass, the congas. Ira was and is still feel his energy everywhere.
Yeah.
Magical. Absolutely magical.
Yeah, I'll say, and it's so funny because you know, sensory and
Mhm.
coming from a place where when I heard you guys and my senses were just going crazy, as intoxicating as your
Mhm.
voice was,
Mhm.
well, his guitar playing was equal, and then bass's bass playing was equal, and so it
Mm-hmm.
was this
Right.
thing. It was this thing that just kind of pulled people in.
Yeah, it did. It pulled us into.
So spinning the record back real quick, um, your senior year of high school,
Yes.
you're about to graduate.
Yes.
What did you think your path was going to be?
I wanted to be a broadcast journalist. I still love journalism. Excuse me, writing. My voice starts changing after 10 o'clock. I get like this deep voice. Um, yeah, broadcast journalist. I was going to be the first Black co-host of like Good Morning America, something like that. I had said for myself. Um, so I studied journalism the first time. I studied print journalism, and I realized that wasn't it. That wasn't it for me. Um, and I was like, no, that's not it. And it took me a minute to figure it out. And that's when the band came about and just writing, just more of a creative writer. But yeah, out of high school, broadcast journalism, I'm going to be in front somebody TV, not necessarily because I wanted the attention, but because I just knew I could do it. You know, I just knew wanted to be in front. Like I wanted to be in. I knew I was supposed to be in front of a camera.
Okay.
You know,
All
let's say.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, fair enough. Your Mount Rushmore of singers.
My Mount, and I'm a teacher now, so I teach Mount Rushmore of singers. So that's how many singers? That's five. How many on Mount Rushmore? Four or five? That's five.
I'll say four. And
Four.
I can
Okay,
totally we gonna
four.
get a four.
So I'm gonna do female and male, like
Okay, that's fine.
okay. Um, my favorite singer besides my mom and my sister, uh, India Davenport from Brand New Heavies.
Wow.
Love, and it's I think about all the people I had the opportunity to meet are the people that I listened to. I listened to that made me feel great inside. And then later in life was gigging with them and became friends with them. And it was just like, wow, universe. It was a trip, you know? So India Davenport, uh, Prince, of course. Prince is my forever number one. Um, Luther Vandross, love me some Luther. And then I'm gonna have to put Shaka. I'm gonna have to put Shaka Khan up there because
Man.
ain't nobody, you know. Yeah, I'm sure I'm
Not,
missing some people, but yeah, you think that's a good four?
oh, that's solid.
Okay.
That is solid. And I recall watching Shaka Khan, and it had to be the late 60s or early 70s.
Okay.
And she was on a TV show and she was playing the drums. And she
Okay.
was no joke.
Mm,
I mean, and when I say no joke,
wow.
I mean, I'll tell you, the two people that can play the drums on a very accomplished level that aren't known for playing the drums,
Mm-hmm.
Shaka Khan, Stevie Wonder.
Shaka Khan and Stevie Wonder. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Those are two people you would
Mm,
not think
mm-hmm.
of what they can do, and you know
Mm-hmm.
them for one thing, but
Mm-hmm.
they are no joke on those drums.
And that's probably why they're so great at their craft because they have that they know how to play an instrument, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I know that helps also. Stevie Wonder too. If I could put another one on a Mount Rushmore,
Oh yeah.
Stevie.
As a matter of fact, watching my, social media gives us so much mess, but for some of the 1% of greatness it gives us, um, me hearing Morris Day and him explaining how he was a drummer and a very good drummer, and he played,
Mm,
you know,
Right.
drums on some in the earlier bands with Prince and stuff like that.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, very, very good drummer also.
Right.
I'm gonna talk to you about some contemporary stuff real quick.
Okay.
Cancel culture.
Cancel culture.
So, with
Mhm.
that being said, do you think people are too quick to cancel people nowadays, or do you think people do deserve to be canceled? What is your thought? A general thought on.
I'm so happy none of that was around when I was growing up. Cancel culture. We probably called it something else. Um, I'm happy there weren't cell phones, people recording, and internet, all of that stuff. But I guess I don't know cancel culture. Um, if you put it out there, people are gonna have an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I have to stop myself sometimes because I'm like, these are human beings. They make mistakes. You
Yeah.
know, we all make mistakes.
Anybody can get caught in that
Mhm.
moment of now there are some people that are horrible. I'm
Yes,
not
true,
gonna just act as though the
true.
world is this wonderful place and people, don't have intent of debauchery within them.
Right,
But
right.
sometimes people just get caught in a very human moment, and
Yes,
we kind of don't know how to act when that
right.
happens. And then there are some people that can humble themselves and say like,
Hmm.
oh man, you know what, I was tripping,
Right,
whatever.
right.
But I think what gets the general public riled up is when some people double down on it, or
Mhm.
not no so much that they double down before they get caught up in their debauchery. They're
Mhm.
quick to shake their finger at somebody. Like
Right.
I can remember Bill Cosby
Okay.
and what he did in the 70s in the culture of the pills and all that stuff,
Hmm.
whatever. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna discredit or take away from that, but I'm
Right.
gonna tell you, I'm gonna say this to the public.
Are we
uh
sure? We're talking about
yeah,
Bill Cosby. You're gonna say it to the public?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna say it to the public.
Okay.
um Black people, African American people, are some of the most forgiving people that have ever stepped across this planet. We will
Sure.
forgive anybody.
We will.
I think it bothered people a little bit what Bill Cosby may have done in the past,
Hmm.
but what got him canceled, he was saying what Black people needed to be doing, what mothers needed to be doing, what
Right. Yeah. He
how
was
how
opinionated.
Black kids needed to be raised, and
Right.
he was saying
Right.
all that.
Right.
So when you have somebody who's multimillionaire and
Hmm.
he's talking down at people just trying to make it that don't have the resources and the things that he has at his disposal,
Right.
and he's talking down to them like,
Hmm.
pull
Right.
yourself up by the bootstraps and da 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 da.
Right.
When they hear he got some dirt on him, oh man,
They
it
were like,
turned the most forgiving people in the world to uh
hmm.
fangs dripping wool. Like
True. Yeah.
everybody went hard. But no, I just wanted to know how you felt about cancel culture, because
Yeah.
I think there is a place for it, but I think that a lot of times people are very quick to judge, and we
Yeah.
lose sight,
Right.
myself included, of the human part of people. Like
Right.
example, Kanye West. Um,
Hmm.
very passionate person. I would say um a person that has like some human real life challenges
Hmm.
beyond his personality being to the left or the right. I think he has some human challenges that go on with him. And um so when I was doing Splendid back when Kanye made the statements he made on TMZ, and he
Hmm.
said slavery was a choice.
That
Oh man, it cut me. And the reason it cut me, so my people are from Brookhaven, Mississippi. I just found out, I'd heard little murmurs, but I went back in February
Mm-hmm.
because they honored my great grandfather, which he founded Friendship. He founded Friendship, which was a town right outside of Brookhaven, Mississippi, where Magic Johnson's father comes from.
Okay.
Um, a lot of
I have
little,
family from Mississippi too, so I know about those towns
yeah.
that just
And
pop up.
so,
Mm-hmm.
so I had an aunt, and my aunt, she used to have to pay poll taxes. And what a
Mm-hmm.
poll tax was something was an amount of money that people had to pay that lived in the little county that they all lived,
Mm-hmm.
but they couldn't vote.
Mm,
And my aunt had, the family story was like she just had enough of it, and she stood up. She's like, I'm not paying a poll tax if I can't vote. She's like,
right,
it doesn't make sense. And so I looked at how my family had sacrificed
right.
and the things that they had gone through,
Yeah,
and to have Kanye West get on TMZ, which is tabloid TV,
right,
and he's talking to these people that cancel everything, that
right,
they don't want you to talk about their history and what they people do and all
right.
that kind of stuff. And so he's having this dialogue with them, and a black guy, and he
Damn.
says slavery was a choice.
Right.
And that burned me, boy. That
Mm-hmm.
burnt my grits, man.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yep,
burnt
I
my
remember.
grits. But that was about 15 years ago, 10 years ago. That was that was in the past.
Mm-hmm.
um the older version of me, I can look at Kanye now and I can say, well, he is insensitive, he is a jerk, but I can also say he has mental issues. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And like any
Mm-hmm.
like you gotta, one thing my mother, rest in peace, told me: if you're adding up an equation, you can't just add the numbers that you like to write. You got to add all the numbers that you're looking at, and then come up with that. And
Sure.
so the
I like
older
that
the,
analogy.
the older version of me says,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, Kanye is wild, he is can be disrespectful, and he's all these things,
Right.
but there's also some challenges, some life challenges that go on with
Right.
that you have to,
Right.
if you're gonna add it all up,
Right.
you got to add the life challenge too. So
Right.
that's why I say, cancel culture. There are people that deserve a taste of it, but
Right.
I think that we need to also look at all the numbers. we,
Exactly. I like that. It's like we all have, and I have to remind myself, or I'm conscious of this, that we all have our own separate journeys. That's actually a lyric from one of the songs on Circles, Situation 5.0. Yeah. So we all have our own separate journeys, and it's really up to us how we are going to show out. I know for me personally, I'm leaving it all on the floor, right? I'm giving 100% of myself every single day. I'm not leaving anything behind. So, whatever I need to do, say, be, I'm going to do that. But I also have enough sense to know I'm not going to harm anyone and I'm not going to harm myself. That I do have to have a filter. I'm conscious of all of those things. And so people like maybe your Kanye West, they need to realize more of that as they are having their own personal experience and journey here on this earth. So that's how I look at it. But yeah, we got to have filters, leave conversation for the kitchen table for your family. Some things you don't bring out into the world.
so
Okay.
so uh so I'll say this and we'll move on.
Okay.
So the thing about it, some people don't know that they don't have a filter.
Right.
Like some people don't know.
That
Like
part.
literally, they're oblivious. So My life coach shared something with me
Mm-hmm.
when I was on that journey.
Okay.
And this is probably one of the most knowledgeable things someone has said to me.
Okay.
Everybody tastes food, but we all taste it different.
Mm.
I was like,
Different. All right.
I
I like
was trying to, because I was very passionate about something that was going on in my life.
that. Okay.
And I was just, and he was like, his approach to it was, you're stuck on this thing, but there's going to be so many other things, and you got to let that go. You got to move on. And then he went into saying, kind of, this may not be something done intentional that's
Mhm.
causing you to feel this way about something. And he's like, this thing is a roadblock in your way of where you're trying to go.
Mm.
And he said, Greg, he said, man, everybody tastes food. We just all taste it different. And you can't tell somebody how to taste their food.
Mm. You can.
You
I like
cannot
that.
say it. You can't tell them. You would love to. Real quick, I'm gonna give a shout out real quick to the chat.
Yes.
We had Alan in there, we had Kenneth, we had Brett, we had Sub, and then we got the OG, Mr. Greenwood District Studios, Amaru. He's a guest on the show pretty often. So I just wanted to shout them out real quick. They riding and rocking with us.
Awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
advice to your past self.
Advice to my past self. Ooh. Advice to my past self.
Real quick. So
Yeah.
what made me come up with that question,
Mm-hmm.
I saw an episode of the Cleveland show, and
Okay.
he went back in time, and he was like maybe in high school or something, and his present self was talking to his past self in high school, and he said, buy Apple stock. But he was eating, or he had something in his mouth. And so
Okay.
his younger high school self said, applesauce? And then Cleveland was like, no, buy Apple stock. And then he's like, applesauce? so, so that's kind of what made me
I
come up
like
with the
that.
question. So what would you go
Yeah.
back and say to your past self if you could?
Um, I would say, okay, I would say probably two things. I would say a lot of stuff, but
Okay.
two things that really stand out. The first one is treat every opportunity like the opportunity, which I did. But there are some times I was like, dang, why didn't I? That you could have, dog. So I am a teacher now. I'm an educator, and I teach my kids that teach every opportunity could be that opportunity. You know, um, something else I would say to my younger self, which I tell my kids this too. Not only be yourself 100% of the time, but it's not up to you if they can't handle it. You know what I'm saying? Like don't be small. And we hear that a lot now, don't be small to make somebody else feel comfortable.
Man.
Because you're not being cocky, but yeah, it was many times I was just like, I made myself small. I was quiet.
We
I
all
could
have.
have, I could have showed them eyes to, I could have done, but no, I didn't do it. So don't play small. Never play small.
Okay. No, that's fair. Want to give a shout out to Angelina. You know what I'm saying? She's in the chat, and Bass just stuck his toe in the water. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Base, the best.
Bass, Bass heavy, man. Oh, man. And it's so funny. Until tonight, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize, because I was talking to him, and
Okay.
I was talking to him yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
I was telling him, I was like, I was like, I've never been inappropriate. I've always looked at Soul Remedy as like a family and like my
Mm-hmm.
extended family. And I
Right.
said, when I was when I walked into the House of Blues and I heard Marla's voice, I was like, man, I was like, man, it took me over. But speaking to you tonight,
Mm-hmm.
I realized it was your voice, it was Ira's guitar playing, and it was bass. It was the combination
Mm-hmm.
of your voice,
Mm-hmm.
bass on the bass, and
Mm-hmm.
Ira and
Right.
those guitar licks, and that was just that
Yeah.
magical New Orleans infectious
Yeah. Yep.
whatever y'all had going. And then I didn't really think about it until tonight. It literally could have been some magical New Orleans going on
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when I walked in and heard you guys going on, and I was just like, man. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you with the last one.
Okay.
If you had a biopic, what would be the title and who would play you?
um, if I had a biopic, what would be the title of it? Well, the title of it would be because this is my title for everything, right? I keep these journals since I was what 18 or whatever, and I have them all. And then in my 20s when I was doing more writing, I always said that when I do write that big story and release it, it's going to be called Stories of a Thrift Store Queen.
Okay.
Stories of a Thrift Store Queen, because it would just be so many different components. And you just take something that someone gave away, you collect it, you add some accents to it, you put some shimmers in it, and you cut it up and you make it your own, which is my life pretty much. So Stories from a Thrift Store Queen. And if I could choose any actress besides myself to play it, there's this actress. When we saw the Hunger Games 2 a long time ago, I have a son. He's 21 years old. Noah, he's my world.
I've seen it.
So my sister and I and my nephews, we were all at the movies, and there was this girl in the movie, and she said, Marla, if you had a daughter, she would look just like her. And after that, I just became obsessed with her. I'm like, she's so pretty. Oh my gosh, it's my daughter. That's how my daughter would look. And I found out her name tonight, right? Because I didn't even think about looking for her name. But her name is, all right, let me.
Did she have red hair?
She does not, she may have red hair now
Okay.
because she's very adventurous, I think. Let me see. Hunger Games. I think her name is like
Okay.
Amandla Steinfeld, but let's see, Hunger Games cast. The first Hunger Games. Wait. Okay, Hunger Games cast. Um, okay, yes. I have to take my glasses off to see. Amandla Steinberg.
Okay.
Amandla Steinberg. I don't know if she still looks like me, but she seems feisty and sweet and smart, and I think she could be a good Marla B spirit.
All right. All
Okay.
right. I'll
Yeah.
take that. So,
Mhm.
with that being said, anybody that's watched it, at least watched tonight, at least 5 minutes of it, they know I'm a huge Soul Remedy fan. That's a
And we
fact.
love it.
That's a
And thank
fact.
you for always thinking about me, Greg, because I want to say whenever there's opportunities for somebody to sing something somewhere or do something, you do call me and you be like, Marla, can you go somewhere and record this really quick? And I never follow through because I don't know how to use this equipment I have. Because I do prefer to be in a room with people. So I appreciate you always looking out for me.
Nah, and it's the same. Like I said, that night a kinfolk type of thing
Yep.
happened, and I'm hitting base. I might not hit him for 2 or 3 months, and I
Yep.
hate that I hit him when I need something, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily a need. It is a check-in. And then
Right.
and then once again, I'm gonna shout base out because he does wonderful things with the programs that he's involved in.
Yes. His nonprofit.
Yeah, and each one teaching one and really give.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, I told him yesterday, I was like, man, if I don't have much, but if there's something that I can do, I just feel like there's so many people that do the good work
Right.
that I don't have a lot, but I have enough to attempt to support somebody who's doing what I can't necessarily do, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
that's real dope. So where can
This is awesome.
people
Mhm.
hear Soul Remedy
Yes.
Circles?
So Soul Remedy, our Circles album, we recorded it over 20 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago. We only released 300 copies and we gave them away the night we did Essence um, Festival. And we only played I Can't Wait Another Minute one time, and the crowd was going crazy. So it was Bass' idea. He had a dream. He called me. He was like, yo, I had this dream and I heard brass bands playing circles. And he was like, they got to hear it. And I was like, well, yo, Bass, let me tell you about this dream I had, because I had a dream too, and he was in it. So it was long overdue, but right on time for us to officially release the Circles album, produced by Bass, lyrics by me, Ayura playing the guitar and the congas. Incredible. When I listen to that album, I feel so much joy. And I know everybody's going to feel joy when they hear it because it came from such a good place. And I think it's going to make you feel like you can still be or continue doing, reaching for and grabbing it because it's yours, whatever it is you want to do and want to be. It is that album that's going to make you feel that. It's going to make you feel that connection, that joy that we need and have. And it's on all streaming platforms. It's what is that? Like Apple and Spotify, YouTube music. It's everywhere. Stream it, download it. It's 8 tracks, I think. Um, and it's intentional and it's beautiful and it's timeless. And I love every single song. But I think if I had to pick one, if I had to pick one, I love them all. I love them all. Wild Boys, Wild Girls, which is the last
Oh,
song. That's my. Do we can we curse? Can we say bad words?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't think any of my students are watching. That's my shit. I love it because it's so bright and sunny, but the whole album is incredible. Stream it. It's great if you want to feel great inside. We've got some things that we're working on right now. Somebody reached out and said that they actually recorded one of our shows at the Dragon's Den. And we're like, what? Send it to us. So we've got some things in the works. And maybe we've got a live show we'll do in the fall, a one-time night with Soul Remedy, in remembrance of Ayura. Who knows? We've got some things, but stream the music. It's great. You'll love it.
So, and where can they find you online?
They can find me. I'm so sorry. Look, I have to ask my son, what's my stuff? I'm going to tell you what it is. Hold on. And while I'm doing this, there is some music that I like my son being 21. So he's got me listening to Playboy Cardi and Destroy Lonely and some of those artists, King Carson and I like it. I feel like Playboy Cardi is my son. So when I see him doing things he shouldn't do, I'm like, Cardi, get it together. So I give that a chance. And then my nephew, Sub Hero's got wonderful music out there. So I listen to all of that. But you can find me on Marla B Spirit, Marlab Spirit. That is my IG and like Facebook, Marla B Smith, my last name. And that's it. I haven't figured out X and I haven't figured out TikTok yet.
All
So
right. Well, I'll
that's where you
say,
can find.
yeah, Sub Hero, he's been in the chat. You know what I'm saying? He's been in the house. And
Check
then
out Sub Hero. His music is awesome. If I could say something really quick,
sure.
Circles, the song Circles, the hook got me going in circles like a little child who can't walk it when you do. All right. It was about my nephew Hero because I didn't have a child then. And I would see him as a little kid learning how to walk. My nephew Renji learning how to write. And so those lyrics were inspired by them. And so to see my nephew Hiru doing wonderful things with his wonderful music, and he produces, and he went to school for engineering, and he makes all of his videos, and my other nephew Ranji, they're doing great. So that lyric was inspired by Sub Hiru and Ranji. So
Dope. And I want to give once again a special shout out to Bass Heavy.
Bass Heavy.
If you need any mixes, if you need any mastering,
Bass.
if you need any production, he's no joke. Like once again on that drum programming and arranging and all that kind of stuff. Uh, I think it's BASSHEAVY.
Yes. Bass is a genius.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely.
He's my brother. My brother. Yeah. T
Yeah.
Rose. Yeah.
He was the gift that never stopped giving.
That's it. The gift that never stopped giving. When
That's a
Bass
matter of
speaks,
fact.
everybody listens. It's like E.F. Hutton, was that it? When E.F. Hutton sang,
One
everybody
of them.
something like that. But Bass is awesome. And thank you to everybody who was involved in anything and helped us through it all. Mikey, One Eye, OC on drums, Jamal Baptiste, everybody. New Orleans. Yep.
So, with that being said, this has been an episode of Splendid Radio on Farside TV.